How's it going, guys? So, coming up this weekend, we're going to have the Ricky Burns, Julius Indongo unification coming up in Glasgow. This is a good fight. It's a fight that I think has the potential to be quite explosive. It also has the potential to be a chess match type of fight because, both of these guys are quite cagey fighters who do what they do on the outside. So, there's a few ways that this one could go. But let's talk about this one here. It's going to be a unification. Julius Indongo is the IBF and IBO champion at light welterweight, and Ricky Burns is the current WBA champion. Ricky Burns, of course, he's going to have the home advantage. The fight's taking place here in Glasgow, so he has that going for him. But how does this one go? Now, a lot of people seem to be 50-50 on this one. There doesn't really seem to be. I haven't looked at the betting odds or anything, but just from the comments I've seen online and whatnot, this seems to be a bit of a divisive fight. A lot of people seem to think that Julius Indongo has a good chance. A lot of people are also saying that Ricky Burns should dominate the fight. I mean, it's just one of those fights. It seems to be split down the middle. Seems to be 50-50 in terms of popular opinion. Now, when the fight first got signed, I really didn't think much of it. I made a video talking about the fight before it was signed and how I felt it was an interesting one and I'd like to see it. But, I just haven't really brought myself to make a prediction because I haven't really thought much about the fight, to be honest. But now that the fight's getting closer, now it's coming up this weekend, I'm starting to think this is this is going to be a really big fight because I don't think there's been a unification in Glasgow before. I could be wrong. I'll need to look that up, but I'm pretty sure there hasn't. So it's gonna be good that Glasgow's got a unification. A big fight for once. So I think it's a good fight. Now, I was listening to some interviews with Ricky Burns, and I liked what I was hearing because Ricky Burns, he was saying all the right things to me. He was talking about how the Troyanovsky KO has basically got this guy looking like he's extremely dangerous, but we don't know what he has in the later rounds because the guy's never been at a high level before. He's never fought in any hard, grueling 12-rounders against any world-class opposition. So, going into this fight, Ricky Burns is going to have that experience. I mean, he's been 12 rounds many times. He's fought many guys that were top domestic level and several guys that were world level. I mean, he's been in the ring with people like Ray Beltran, Terence Crawford, Roman Martinez, Paulus Moses. He just beat Creole Relic in his last fight, who was an unbeaten contender. So, going into this fight, I mean, the resumes of these two guys, I mean, it really doesn't compare. I mean, Julius Indongo, other than the 40 seconds he had against Edward Troyanovsky, he really hasn't fought at a high level before. Now, obviously, he has a heck of a lot of power. He has a very dangerous left hand from distance. And, when Edward Troyanovsky fought Indongo, I felt that Troyanovsky, to me, he approached that fight the wrong way. I mean, he was very reckless. He came forward. He was, looking to impose himself on the guy and looking to take the fight to him early, and he ended up just falling short. And, I suppose you could say he got caught cold because, when a knockout happens in the first minute of a fight, I mean, the fight only lasted 40 seconds. The guys don't really have much time to settle into the fight, I mean, and to warm into the fight, because how many times have we seen fighters get dropped in the first round, and then for the rest of the fight they don't get dropped? I mean, we've seen that happen a lot, so a lot of times fighters do get dropped early, and if they get caught flush early on, it can have a more devastating effect than it sometimes can later in the fight. So, we really don't know how well Julius Indongo would have done had he not caught Troyanovsky when he did. Maybe if he didn't land that punch, perhaps Troyanovsky, with his championship experience, maybe he would have been able to come strong in the second half of the fight if he was able to survive an early onslaught. And that's what's got me kind of thinking that Ricky Burns has a very, very good chance here because, like I said, Ricky Burns has a lot of experience going 12 rounds, and not only that, but he's very, very patient early on. He's very cautious, okay? He sticks to the basics, sticks to the fundamentals, has a nice tight guard. He doesn't get caught up in the moment early on. He doesn't get caught cold. He's a very responsible fighter. In fact, Ricky Burns, when he first fought for the world title, which was against Roman Martinez, he made a mistake early in that fight and he got caught in the first round and he got dropped. And I've seen a couple of interviews with him since then where he's talked about that, and he's talked about how for the first 2 rounds of his fights he just takes it easy and he just takes a look at the guy and he tries not to overcommit. And I think that mindset and that attitude is going to be very popular. Very positive for him going into this next fight, because obviously he doesn't want to get caught with the same kind of shot that Troyanovsky got caught with. And he wants to keep it long, stay behind his guard, maybe allow the guy to hit him on the guard with the left hand, and just kind of feel the power, see what the guy's got, and just see if he can kind of attune himself to the power, so that as the fight goes on, he can start to open up a bit more, and that championship level experience will come into play. And from what I've seen of Julius Indongo, and I've watched quite a few of his fights. There's several fights online of the guy, and to me, he's a good boxer, Indongo. Okay, he's dangerous. He's long. He's got very long arms. He's tall. Obviously, we know he has that big left hand. But to be honest, I see a few limitations there. To me, he doesn't really have great foot speed. He's a little bit ragged at times. He tends to drop his hands. So I think that if he can't get to Ricky Burns early on, if Ricky Burns just stays away and just pot shots and just keeps behind that tight guard and just take a look at the guy for a couple of rounds, I think that Julius Indongo might start to show his inexperience and might start to make a few mistakes, because let's not forget too, one of the problems for Indongo is he doesn't really have much experience on the road. Now, yes, he did go to Russia to fight Troyanovsky, but that was a fight, like I said, it only lasted 40 seconds, and he was able to hit a home run shot in the first round. So, we don't know how it would be if a fight starts to heat up and the action starts to, the pace starts to rise of the fight, and then the crowd starts to really get behind the champion. Some fighters who are travelling are not really able to deal with that mentally. And that the crowd in Glasgow are going to be very, very passionate for this one and very loud in their support for Ricky Burns. So the longer the fight goes, and we just don't know what this guy has. We don't know what he's made of. He's never had to fight a hard, grueling 12-rounder before. So that's going to help Ricky Burns in this fight. And just the more I think about it, I can only see one winner here. I see Ricky Burns winning this one, and I see him. I just see that experience being the key, and the fact that he knows what he needs to do, and he's not going into this fight thinking, shit, this guy's so dangerous, how am I going to beat him? No, he's just thinking, look, get through the first round, get through the second round, avoid that left hand, and we'll see what he's got. And I think that is the right attitude. It seems to me like a very confident, yet very responsible way to look at a fight. And I can see him doing it, and Ricky Burns too, He is fundamentally sound. That's one thing we have to say, which I don't really know if we can say that about Indongo, because like I said, Indongo, I've seen him drop his hands, I've seen him, be a little bit ragged at times, doesn't really seem to have much of an inside game, whereas Ricky Burns, I've seen some of his fights where he does several unorthodox things, like he'll go up on the ropes. Like if you've seen his fight against Michael Katsidis, for example, he went up on the ropes and he would allow Katsidis to try and go to the body and work away at the guard, and then he would turn him and land left hooks to the body and stuff like that. I think Burns, he's a little bit cute in there. He's got a few slick skills. He's not just a straight up and down stiff boxer. No, he does have some subtleties in there, and I do think that he will figure out Julius Indongo if he can avoid the power early. Obviously, if he just comes out there, drops his hands, like fucking tries to take Indongo's head off in the first round, he could end up getting caught the same way that the Russian Troyanovsky did. But honestly, I just think Ricky Burns is a much more experienced and much more responsible boxer than Troyanovsky was. And I just think that I just can't really see him losing. I think Ricky Burns is going to win. I think he's going to take a decision. I think he will box this guy smart, and I think he'll just stay out of range early on, make him miss, and avoid that left hand. Indongo, we don't know what he's got. What Indongo needs to do here, in my opinion, is he needs to focus on the body early on, because sometimes if a fighter's boxing on the outside, just waiting with a tight guard, it helps to invest in the body, because it stops some of these guys from coming on late. And I think that's what Indongo needs to do here. He can't just go in there throwing a haymaker left hands like against Troyanovsky. He has to be a lot more tactful, and he's going to have to try and gradually break Burns down, because when that crowd is screaming for Ricky Burns, it's going to give him a lot of adrenaline and a lot of motivation. And this guy Indongo needs to take that out of him. He needs to go for the body, needs to break him down. Or if Indongo has the boxing skill, and we don't know this yet, but if he does, try and use his reach advantage, because I'm pretty sure he has the longer arms in there. I think he's taller. Try and use that, and if he can, kind of just outbox Ricky Burns from the outside, then by all means do it. But I don't know. I just don't see that happening, because I've never seen him do it before. In all the fights that I've watched of him, he's fought, domestic level competition in Africa and whatnot, and I haven't seen him at a high level yet. So I'm gonna go with Burns to win a decision. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching.